This top 10 shortcuts list is not biased. In fact, I went out of my way to try to make it with science. Let me explain. So a long time ago, I made a video of the exact same premise, and it tried to answer the question of what are the top 10 best shortcuts in Mario Kart Wii. Admittedly, I didn't answer that question very well. I didn't put much thought into it either. So I'm redoing it now in a slightly better way. But first, we got to answer the question, what makes one shortcut better than another? There's two things I factored while making this list. Number one, the amount of time the shortcut saves, and number two, its difficulty. So I came up with this formula. I took the amount of time the shortcut saved, divided by 1.22 raised to the difficulty score. So what is the difficulty score? About a week ago, I put out a survey asking people to rank a whole bunch of shortcuts in Mario Kart Wii on a scale of 1 to 5 in terms of difficulty. So the difficulty score is the average response for each track in the survey. That way, if the difficulty score is higher, the overall shortcut score will be lower. And you might be wondering how I came to this 1.22 number. Basically, it has to do with difficulty not being as important as how much time the shortcut saves, in my opinion, because as you improve the game, shortcuts that were difficult before aren't going to be as difficult later. That's why I didn't go with the linear approach. I'll explain it a little bit more in a comment below if you'd like to see. So I used this formula on each track, and I got a score that reflects pretty well what I expected, but with a couple twists that you probably didn't see coming. Shoutouts to all you grass shortcut fans. You guys are going to love this. Using this formula, I'm going to go over the top 10 shortcuts in Mario Kart Wii, also some honorable mentions, and the LVP. That's right, the worst shortcut in Mario Kart Wii is going to be revealed. I can't wait for you guys to see this. So all the scores ended up ranging from about 0 to 4.5, with 4.5 being far and away really good and 0 being, well, terrible. Of course, nothing actually got a 0 because a shortcut has to save some amount of time. The median score was a 1.423, which should give you a sense of scale for some of these shortcuts in the top 10. And one last thing, if the shortcut could be done shroomless, I gave it an additional 0.5. I think it's safe to say it's a bonus if a shortcut can be done shroomless, and overall just makes it a better shortcut. Okay, I'm not going to spoil anything else. Let's just get into the top 10. Number 10 is the DK Summit Double. The DK Summit Double had a score of 1.987, just barely not making it past the 2-point mark. It saves about 2.1 seconds. It can be done shroomless, and it got an average difficulty rating of 3. This is not normal, by the way. The difficulty ratings were rounded to the nearest, like, 8th decimal place, and it somehow just happened to be 3. 2.7 seconds is a reasonable amount of time to save for a shortcut, and in case you're wondering, the DK Summit single also got considered for this list, and it actually fell slightly below average at 1.379, so definitely pulling its weight for how easy it is. Anyway, that's the DK Summit Double at number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9 is the Mario Raceway Shroom Spot. It got a score of 2.045. Tiny little spoiler, this is not going to be the last grass shortcut we see on this list, but it's very easy to see why they would make it. They're super easy and they save a ton of time. Now here's a slightly controversial part of the video. So what do we consider shortcuts? Why don't we consider the entire golden route that you can take, including this shortcut, as a shortcut? Well, that's arbitrary. I chose not to, but if you would consider that a shortcut, that makes sense, I guess. And if I did consider it for this list, it would probably be really high, but I didn't. Number 8 is the Delphino Square Mud Shortcut with a score of 2.220. The Mud Shortcut saves about 3.1 seconds and got a difficulty score of 1.68. I don't know about y'all, but when I was just starting the game, I actually thought this was kind of difficult because you really have to hold right here, and if you don't have a good drift on your vehicle, you might have to use 2 mushrooms. Once you get the hang of it though, you're probably never going to fail it. It's really not that hard. And considering how much time it saves, sometimes this shortcut is the difference between winning and losing. It's just a really impactful shortcut. Going to number 7, we've got the Grumble Volcano Respawn with a score of 2.409. This one has a difficulty score of 2.02. and it saves about 3.6 seconds. Honestly, 2.02? Are you sure, guys? Are you sure it's not like 1? This shortcut is really easy. I'm pretty sure you can do it with every vehicle too, but with the Flame Runner, I mean, you can TF it, you can wheelie, you can hop, you can do a lot of things and you'll make it. It still does have a low difficulty score though, so I can't say it's too far off my expectations. Very good shortcut. This one and the Rock Hop define the way Grumble Volcano was played. Just outside of the top 5, at number 6, we have the Peach Gardens Flower Shortcut. We already saw one grass shortcut. This one is significantly easier and saves more time. It saves 3.1 seconds and has by far the lowest difficulty score at 1.06. People will go backwards at the start of the race so that they can get mushrooms and take this shortcut. Sure, taking it on lap 1 isn't exactly going to make or break your race, but taking it on lap 1 and 2 and potentially 3, And that's a pretty good race. If you're saving 9 seconds over the course of the race and it's pretty much free, yeah, that's the recipe for a really good shortcut. Jumping into the top 5, we have the Grumble Volcano Rock Hop with a score of 2.532. The Rock Hop saves the most time that we've seen on this list so far at 5.2 seconds, but has a difficulty rating of 3.62. It's easy to see the advantages that this shortcut has over the respawn, you know, because you don't have to respawn. So it's 100% worth it to learn how to go for this one instead of just settling to go for the respawn every time. Although keep in mind the respawn does have a 2.409 score, so like that's pretty close, but yeah, the Rock Hop is better. So I definitely recommend learning this one. At number 4 is the Delphino Square Double. Now we talked about the mud shortcut earlier. We didn't talk about the dock because that didn't make the top 10, but if you combine the two, then you get the double. And it's pretty easy to see why this shortcut is a lot better than just the mud cut. It got a score of 2.651 with a difficulty of 2.52. So on average, this shortcut is a little harder than the mud cut, but if I'm going to be honest, I would disagree. The double shortcut kind of gives you a really good angle going into the mud cut, which makes that a little bit easier. And considering you're using a mushroom to go over the water, that's pretty easy too. So I would say this is a little easier than the difficulty score gives it credit for. It also saves 4.3 seconds, which is really good. It takes maybe 15 minutes to learn how to do this one if you've never played Mario Kart Wii before, so go pick it up. Great shortcut, super worthy of the top 4. Going into the top 3, we've got a shortcut that might have been carried by the shroomless factor, and it's easy to see why. It got a difficulty score of 1.81, and it saves about 3.1 seconds. This is a shortcut that's a necessity to do online. There's a whole bunch of methods to do it, the most obvious and easiest being to slow down and then hop to the right, but there's a slightly better method if it's blocked. You go up the hill like the old 2008 world records do. It will avoid a lot of traps if there are traps on the turn, and believe me, there will be a lot of traps on the turn. This might be the most trapped shortcut in the game, but assuming there's no one around you to bump you off the track and there's no traps, then it's pretty easy, saves a lot of time, and you do it shroomless. A really good shortcut. Now for our top 2, which are far and away the best shortcuts on this list. Third place, DK Mountain, had a score of 2.663. Second place, the Bowser's Castle 3 Ultra, has a score of 3.767. The Ultra saves by far the most time out of any shortcut on this list at 6.9 seconds, and you can do it shroomless, and it got a 3.76 difficulty rating. For reference, the highest difficulty rating was a 4.12 given to the Bowser's Castle glitch, and I believe the 3.76 given to the Ultra is the second highest. So very difficult, but it saves so much time. Number 1 is the regular Bowser's Castle 3 shortcut. It got a score of 4.161, the only shortcut to get above 4. It saves 6.3 seconds, it can be done shroomless, and it got a difficulty score of 2.72, which concludes our top 10 list. Now I want to talk about some honorable mentions and maybe some dishonorable mentions too. Let's start with honorable mentions. The 5 shortcuts that just barely didn't make the cut were the GV2 Shroom, the Mushroom Gorge Gap Jump, the Waluigi Stadium Mud Cut, the Dry Ruins Ultra, and the Bowser's Castle Wii Glitch. The Bowser's Castle Wii Glitch just barely didn't make it into the top 10 by 0.077. Maybe if I got more accurate data on how much time each shortcut saves, Bowser's Castle Wii would be into the top 10, but I'm not entirely sure, so that's up to your speculation. I was really expecting the Mushroom Gorge Gap Jump to make a push into the top 10. I think of this one as a poster child of shortcuts in Mario Kart Wii. It's a real shame it couldn't get up there, but still above average. I'll take it. Side note, the Desert Hills shortcut got a score of 1.423. GCN Mario Circuit got also a score of 1.423. I thought that was really funny, and it turned out to be the median. I guess that would make 1.423 the median and the mode. Just thought it was a funny little factoid to throw at y'all. And for the great reveal, the worst shortcut on this list, unfortunately, is the Koopa Cape Hippity Hoppity strat. It got a score of 0.299, which is a real shame because this might be my favorite shortcut of all time. It saves 0.5 seconds and requires a mushroom. You might as well be saving 0.5 seconds by using a mushroom on a straightaway anyway, so I don't even know what the shortcut does, but it just looks so cool. I'm honestly upset this made it to the bottom of the list. Free Koopa Cape Hippity Hoppity strat. I know in my last shortcuts video, a lot of people got upset that I never showed the shortcuts that I was actually talking about, which makes a whole lot of sense. I guess I'm so used to knowing what the shortcuts are that when I talk about them, I don't have to think about what they are anymore. But for the average new viewer, it can be confusing if you don't know what they are, so don't worry. I showed all the shortcuts in action this time. Stay safe, stay cute, stay loyal, cause I already know you are, and goodbye.